The funding for this video is provided by the amazing members of my Patreon. Also contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. Yeah, I started from PBS Kids. What you gonna do? Fight me? Anyway, roll the video. So, I'm pretty sure we've all seen an episode of this show, or you at least know what it is. When people have discussions about SpongeBob, they often say their favorite episodes and seasons come from before the year of 2004. While I do appreciate those episodes, that wasn't my favorite era of SpongeBob. My favorite episodes come from after the first movie's release because one, I remember when all those episodes premiered because I was seated for them, so I had that nostalgia factor, but two, I feel different about them now as an adult, but in a good way. I look back at this section of episodes and I feel like they are a bit ahead of its time because of the subject matter and the topics that it addressed. Seasons 4, 5, and 6 are the seasons that many refer to as when the show began to decline in quality, and that made me a bit upset because I enjoyed these episodes of the series the most. While the vibe of the show is different, meaning that the show became more mean-spirited and the characters became flanderized, there's plenty of episodes that parody real-life events. This episode I picked from this bunch is the Krabby Chronicle, which is one of my favorite episodes because of the meaning behind it. If you watch SpongeBob, you could catch on to the fact that Mr. Krabs is a capitalist that is always trying to find new ways to make money. It isn't necessarily a bad thing for a person to pick a side hustle because they need the extra income, as being an entrepreneur and freelancer in general, having multiple streams of income is kind of necessary to a certain extent. One thing about this man is that he makes enough money running his restaurant, selling overpriced burgers, so he doesn't need the shit. In the Krabby Chronicle, Mr. Krabs learns that gossip makes a lot of money, so he starts up a newspaper called the Krabby Chronicle, and SpongeBob is the head and only writer. As SpongeBob wants to be as truthful and only talks about the positives in Bikini Bottom, Mr. Krabs basically tells that ass to be messy, and if he has to lie to make a good story, do that. Long story short, Mr. Krabs is making everyone in town look bad, but everyone keeps spending money on this damn newspaper because let me tell you, gossip is like sugar and it is addicting. Once you start looking at gossip, it just keeps going, and it's part of the reason why I barely engage with it anymore. The more SpongeBob continues to say and do these awful things to these people, the more he dislikes it and the more he dislikes himself. We all see SpongeBob to be a super happy and positive person who doesn't like to see people sad. While he may be annoying, he means well. He breaks down and tells Mr. Krabs, "Mr. Krabs, we're hurting people. Mr. Krabs, we're hurting people."
What the fuck does this have to do with anything?
Damn, she just getting started. Can you let her cook?
Yeah, let her cook.
Come on, boys, get loud. 'Cause when the music starts bumping, the whole place will be jumping. It's my scene, my scene. You know what I'm.
No. Yeah. Well, Black Mirror is one of those shows I feel like can never satisfy anybody, including myself, because so much of the show is hit or miss. Like, they went to the Sam Levinson and Thomas Ashbrook school of writing by putting shit into episodes that doesn't make sense and dances around getting the point. That being said, I personally think that we need to stop holding this show up to such high standards, and not even from the beginning of its run, because I personally didn't think the first season was that great either. So moving forward, I'm going to talk about this show more from an entertainment and social aspect kind of view, and not an artistic aspect, if that makes sense. Meaning, I'd enjoy the episode for my personal reasons and why. I said this before on my channel, but so much of what I like are things that have negative reviews. Not you, Euphoria Miraculous Ladybug. But at the end of the day, I realized that somebody worked hard on that, and it probably means a lot to them. And it's funny because years ago, down the line, Shit that was seen as ass back in the day is seen in a more positive light, like the movie Jawbreaker and the series All Grown Up. Because as time passes, opinions change, but also more people talk about these projects. So I'ma just get on here and talk about why I love the episode Mazey Day so much and why I'm kind of obsessed with it. Mainly because of the message that it got across. Mazey Day is a season 6 Black Mirror episode that focuses on two women who are very different in race, class, and status, but work in the same industry, that being entertainment. Mazey Day is a white actor, and Bo is a paparazzi of color. Bo quits being a paparazzi simply because she feels that she is responsible for the death of a star that she snapped a picture of, that being him getting caught cheating, and that he K-worded himself, and also this outed him. Mazey is basically going through it right now because she ended up driving while intoxicated. Just a quick little tip from me to you, don't do that. And she hit an animal, or what she thought was an animal, on the side of the road, and that thing bit her. Turns out it was a person that was a werewolf. Mind you, this happened in the Czech Republic, not in Los Angeles, because Mazey was in the Czech Republic filming a production. Mazey is then sent back home because she is difficult to work with, but Bo is now working as a barista when she finds out that she could get a picture of Mazey, who has not been seen in weeks. Mind you, Bo quit and started working at the coffee shop after the entire situation with the dude ending his own life. Bo is now super broke, very behind on rent, so that is why she considers going to get this picture of Mazey. Long story short, she finds Mazey. Mazey has transformed into a werewolf, but at the end, Mazey can't take it anymore, that being a werewolf and most likely being famous just as well, and she tells Bo to K-word her. Bo doesn't want to do it, but she hands the gun to Mazey. Mazey hands the gun up to her head and K-words herself. And then Bo snaps a picture of it. Now, we need to explain all of this, okay? Because to you, you're just like, girl, what the hell was that? Okay, y'all, I'm gonna get there. The time period that this episode takes place in is crucial to the story, but the overall message is still very relevant today because Mazey Day takes place in the year of 2006, and the way the paparazzi is now, I wouldn't say is necessarily the same as it was back then, mainly because everyone didn't really have a damn camera back then in the past like they do now. But when I say paparazzi was worse in the 2000s, I low-key mean it was worse in a different way because more people have access to being a paparazzi now than they did back then because cameras are a lot more accessible now, and that makes things worse. Because I remember when we all found out Halle was dating DDG because somebody had got a video of them at like a Usher concert or something together, and people just be taking random pictures of celebrities when they're out and about, and no, don't do that. It's rude. It's actually very fucking rude. Let me go ahead and say, like, just stop taking pictures of people that you don't know, including celebrities. But I feel that in the 2000s, when things were starting to become worse, I'd say, for celebrities, because people were starting to get easier access to gossip. And let me tell you something. Gossip about famous people back then is not much different than it is now. And you want to know why? Because even during the old Hollywood days, it's the same shit. In this episode, we see that Mazey is on drugs, and her being on drugs is what led her to hitting that person on the road. And as typical as this may be, it happens a lot more than you think. Not just celebrities have this issue with substance, but many people who work in the entertainment industry in general have issues with substances. Two things that always get passed around in the entertainment industry is one, gossip, and two, drugs. I'll go ahead and tell you that. And part of the reason I don't partake in gossip anymore for the most part is because it's just the same thing over and over and over again in new fonts. Like, I saw people were talking about Drake hanging out with Sexy Red, and I was like, y'all, this ain't new. He do this shit all the time, and I'm tired of hearing about it. Hi everyone, the captain here. I just wanted to get on here real quick and tell you guys thank you so much for your support. I have gotten so much fan art from you guys, and I've met plenty of y'all in person at the conventions that I have been at. And also, thank you guys so much for coming to the panels that I host. It means so much to me. You guys are so great. I appreciate every little last bit of support you guys give me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can say thank you 100 times, but I truly do mean it. Thank you. Now, I do want to talk more in detail about the paparazzi aspect of this episode because it reminds me of a video that I made last year called "It's Normalized to Be Rude to People." And that's literally what the paparazzi is. Paparazzi are people who get paid to be rude to celebrities, and overall, that's just tabloid journalism as a whole. Because that's the kind of journalism that they was doing in the Krabby Chronicle. Tabloid journalism. And usually celebrities bite back at the paparazzi for bothering them. And I never get mad when it happens because why are you bothering them in the first place? Because there were scenes in the Krabby Chronicle where people literally yelled at Mr. Krabs and they had the right to do so. Like that time Halle Berry was yelling at the paparazzi, like they deserve that shit. And also when Bjork threw hands with that one reporter, I was like, yeah, get her, girl. But I saw Mazey Day getting turned into a werewolf being a case of, see, when you do clownery, the clown comes back to bite. Because she wouldn't have ate them paparazzi if they weren't bothering her in the first place. Like that scene that really tugged me the most was when the male photographers were constantly taking pictures of Mazey when she was shaking. It was obvious that she was very unwell. And Bo, being the only woman who was in there, was the only one who cared enough to check to see if she was okay. That moment just goes to show you that many people don't see celebrities as human. But also, for those of you guys who don't know, most of the people who make it as paparazzi, like the big people, the overall majority, are men. And many of the people that they target are young women. Because there's a scene of a Paris Hilton type being harassed by the paparazzi, and the only person that we didn't see bother her was Bo. And while Bo is not a saint, I say, she shows us the reason why most paparazzi are men. Because these fuckers are ruthless, but also women get treated worse on both ends by both celebrities and male paparazzi. So that's why a lot of them just don't even fuck with it. So oftentimes people ask themselves, is the money really worth it? And we can see this with both Bo and Mazey. Because Mazey, played by Clara Ruggard, mind you, she was on The Lodge, and I find that so ironic with the kind of character that she's playing. But Mazey is played by Clara, and she is somebody that we look at to be an America's sweetheart type. She's white, young, and conventionally attractive by society's beauty standards. And she is painted out to be a good girl type, similar to like Britney Spears. But I'd say in what was going on behind the scenes with her, she reminds me a lot of Demi Lovato. Because the public sees her as this super sweet person. Even the magazine shoot she did with her scene was selling her to be this girl next door type. But behind the scenes, she's kind of the opposite. Like she was literally getting high as hell in her room after she got off work and was drinking. The girl was literally on shrooms. And in the moment, we see that Maisie is very unhinged, but this is common practice for people that are in the public eye. To deal with trauma and fame, they go to drugs and alcohol to cope with it all. And we all know what drugs and alcohol do to you. It leads to people mistreating others. And with Bo, she is the complete opposite of Maisie. And yes, Zazie Beetz is a pretty woman. Let's not front about it. She looks completely different than Maisie. And as much as people don't want to address it, the way you look often affects the kind of success that you have within this industry. And we know that comes down to colorism, featureism, texturism, body types, overall racism and misogyny. And also, I am aware that Zazie Beetz is a light-skinned biracial woman, but that's not the point we're talking about here. We're talking about Maisie Day in the universe of this. The point is that she looks different than Clara, who is Maisie's actor. But anyways, back to Bo. She took a picture of a celebrity who was secretly gay and was leaving the home of the man he was hooking up with, and she sold those pictures and got her money. And it, led to that guy K-wording himself. Now, do I think that Bo was homophobic? Not necessarily, mainly because she felt guilty and she was a contribution to that man's death. And if she didn't have sympathy, that's another story. I would be looking at her more sideways than I already was. But what she did was in fact homophobic. And the entertainment industry in the 2000s was more homophobic back then than it was now. And it made extremely big deals over who was not straight. Because I kid you not, that was like a hot topic of people on the tabloids trying to figure out who was gay or not. And while you can make a good money following celebrities around and taking pictures of them and sell them to the tabloids, like SpongeBob said, Mr. Krabs were hurting people. And while the Krabby Chronicle was making Mr. Krabs a lot of money, it wasn't making SpongeBob shit because he don't play his ass. It was exploitative as hell. While I do have sympathy for both Bo and Maisie, they were both wrong for how they treated people because it was revealed that Maisie wasn't all that nice all times. Like, so much of the entertainment industry in general is just full of people being awful to each other. And this is why I keep telling y'all that a lot of these people ain't shit, and holding them to such high standards is not great. And at the end of this episode, we see that Bo snaps a picture of Maisie's last moments. Was Bo wrong? Hell yes. But why did she do it? Because if she didn't get that money she needed for her and her roommate, they was at risk of getting thrown the fuck out of their apartment. While it was wrong, just if Maisie died and she didn't document it or anything like that, Bo was still gonna be broke. And guess what? Blame the economy. Remember that this takes place in the 2000s, and the 2000s was a time where the price of everything went up. Well, yes, we hate the paparazzi, and it's obvious that Bo didn't fucking like this job. She needed that money and wasn't sure of how to get it. So until y'all start paying baristas a livable wage, along with all these other jobs that y'all deem as acceptable by society standards, people gonna keep doing stuff like this on the side for income. And with Maisie, while yes, she had income coming in for being famous and acting, she was not necessarily happy. Both these women were wrong in different ways for their actions. And both of it comes down to capitalism. Ew. Even though I enjoyed Maisie Day by a lot, I truly feel like this episode could have been longer, or they could have cut out so much of it to do better with the buildup of Maisie being a werewolf. Maisie being a werewolf didn't come out of nowhere, but there was just too subtle about it, and I think they could have made it a little bit more clear to the audience that the person who bit her was a werewolf. It went by too fast. And I'm sorry, but Bo's roommate was just kind of irrelevant, and he was not necessarily needed. The only time I say he was important was when he told Bo that she was behind on rent, and it really could have been written another way to let the audience know that she needed money. I don't know, he just didn't feel like he needed to be there. There was a diner scene in it, and I just felt like it was just there, and they kept making a big deal about the damn pecan pie, and the pecan pie had nothing to do with the situation going on. Like, they were just in there talking, and it didn't mean anything. Black Mirror overall has this problem in general where they just add shit to the episode and it's just pointless. Like I said, sometimes I think they go to the Sam Levinson and Thomas Ashstruck writing school of dancing around shit and having things in there that don't make sense. Like in another episode of this current season of Black Mirror called Lock Henry, there was an oral sex scene and it didn't mean anything. It just took up time. To be honest, we've seen Black Mirror do 90-minute episodes before. They could have just made this one of those. And also, for an episode to be named Mazey Day, we didn't see much of her. Nor did we see that much of Bo either, to a certain extent. Like, because, let me be honest, shit kept focusing on different things that didn't matter all that much, and I wish we got to spend more time with these two, because these were the two characters that we were supposed to care about the most. The episode was beautifully shot. It really did look like 2006. It just needed more time to flesh out the story. Is this episode perfect? No. But I didn't flat out hate it and think it's terrible like a lot of other people did. So, in conclusion, I have two things to wrap all of this up. One, stop holding Black Mirror to such high standards because it's never been that great from the beginning. It's just because it makes y'all think. That's why you thought it was so great. I don't know, anytime people watch something where they are challenged just a little bit, they try to hold it up to such a high ass standard and then they be confused afterwards. But also, too, try to read between the lines. As somebody that understands that there is hard work that goes into productions, especially with all the fuck shit that's going on right now with the writer's strike and the actors joining in, I can appreciate that there was hard work put into it. While I enjoyed it overall, and I do understand that there were some things about it that could have been fixed in the end, I pretty much enjoyed it. I saw the hard work that was put into it, and I just had fun with it, okay? I just love watching anything that's a period piece in the 2000s, because somebody tried to tell me that a period piece in the 2000s was not a period piece. Anyway, yeah, that's what I gotta say.
Now that you see, you should beware of the power of three. They come to fight as fast as they can. They're dangerous yet fabulous. Because the Utonium made them eschew. They are the colors of pink, green, and blue. They'll catch you in the blink of an eye and do it all before bedtime. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they're shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical that they coming through and coming through, and everyone they're shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical that. Girls will just blow your mind. Buttercup like villains 3 at a time. Bubbles will smile while kicking your butt, and Blossom will lead them out of their rut. Cherish and Powerpuff, 2 of a kind. Both wanna save the world before bedtime. From Townsville, Memphis, New York to LA, the Powerpuff Girls are just here to stay.